Two balls and a strike to count on Taylor. Reyes fires, swinging a drive, deep left field. This is way back. Walk the ball. Let's Taylor.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into DodgerHeads Live, presented by DodgerBlue.com, part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network, presented by So Rare MLB. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined tonight by Blake Williams, sporting a mustard yellow Dodgers hat, but it is a World Series hat. Blake, happy Sunday night to you. How are you?
Doing pretty well. Ready for an off day tomorrow. It's been kind of a long week and excited that I'm going to go golfing tonight a bit and go from there.
Look at this. The night is young for our guy, Blake Williams. Shout out to that. We have a ton to get to tonight. A huge show. We're going to talk about the week that was, a couple guys that stood out positively, negatively. We've got a Max Muncy injury update. We've got some debate about what the Dodgers should be doing at third base, as well as some clarity. May not be the clarity people want. We've got some trade rumors. We've got Miguel Rojas versus Gavin Lux. I'm going to share some stories from my time down here in Reno with the Oklahoma City Baseball Club. We'll get to some odds and ends, Joe Kelly injury updates, that kind of thing, as well as, of course, taking questions. So thank you to everybody who is joining us live here on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter. We greatly appreciate you. If you want us to stop what we're talking about and answer a question, just go ahead and throw it in as a super chat, and we will do just that. But Blake, let's start with the week that just happened. There's two ways you could frame this week. The Dodgers either went 4-2 or they lost 2 out of 3 to the Giants. Which of those two narratives do you choose to believe on this Sunday evening?
I mean, they lost 2 or 3 to the Giants is the fun one we're all going to talk about and focus on. No one remembers what happened before that series, right? Like, who'd they even play before they played the Giants? No one knows. So, unacceptable week there, losing 2 or 3 to the Giants.
Yeah, it is funny because going into this, we talked about, hey, what are the expectations? We know it's the White Sox. We know it's the Giants. It's not exactly a murderer row of opponents with an off day mixed in. And look, 4-2 is the expectation of the week. And that's what the Dodgers did. They swept the White Sox. They took 1 out of 3 from the Giants. That equals 4-2. They hold an 8-game lead in the National League West. But I just think it's a funny question, Blake, because it does feel like a beauty is in the eye of the beholder situation where if you have skepticism about this team, you can latch on to the fact that they got destroyed today, that they nearly got swept by the Giants. And yet, if you want to sort of take the holistic big picture, zoom out, what's the actual goal and motivations of this team? Hey, they won 4 out of 6. That's the goal. If you win 4 out of every 6, you're going to be in a pretty good spot. And so, to your point, it is the White Sox, and losing to the Giants stinks. And so, Laura in the chat, you can't put a positive spin. That's your world right there, Blake. The negativity that is just coming out of this place. But look, it is the Giants, and nobody likes losing to the Giants. And they did nearly get swept by the San Francisco Giants.
Yeah, that was a interesting game. They took the lead, and then the Giants took the lead, and then the Dodgers took the lead, and then it was tied up, and then the extra innings, the Dodgers were just on the brink of losing there with a walk-off hit. Daniel Hudson loaded the bases and then kind of pulled out of that somehow with his little Houdini act there. And then all of a sudden, the Dodgers are up 14-7. Really came at us quickly there. And a lot going on in that inning.
Yeah, and they pull it out. It was a great game. They could have given up a couple different times, down 5-2. They decide to come back, so good for them. Let's talk week in review. 3 players in particular that jump out. James Paxton, Tyler Glasnow, and Shohei Ohtani. We're kind of going in reverse order here. Let's start with Paxton. Loaded the bases in both of the first 2 innings today. He finishes 4 innings pitched, 12 hits, 9 earned runs, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts. 10 of the 12 hits had exit velocities over 100 miles an hour. One of the 12 outs that he recorded was a gift on the base paths that would have been another scored run if not for a running mistake by the Giants. The ERA shoots up to 4.28 on the season. We've talked a lot on this show, or I should say I've talked a lot on this show, that the underlying metrics of James Paxton were not encouraging, to say the least. A lot of dark blue on a site where dark blue is not a good thing. And yet people would point to the win-loss record. People would point to the ERA, and they would say, no, look, he's awesome. Today felt like an overcorrection, not an overcorrection, a correction, a back to the mean sort of a day for James Paxton. Do you believe that to be the case? Do you believe that the real James Paxton is somewhere in between the guy we've seen for most of the year and the 9 earned runs that he allowed in 4 innings today?
Yeah, I think so. I think we all kind of knew he was overperforming the metrics a bit. The strikeout rate being down was concerning. It has been all year. And he's been pitching out of a lot of jams, getting kind of lucky in some of those situations. But at the same time, you do have to give him some credit for pitching well in those situations when there's a chance for the game to blow up there. And he's been able to kind of get out of those jams a bit more often. But still, we're talking about like he has a 4.2 ERA right now. Like if you're taking that from your number 5 starter, you're going to be happy with that all the time. So even with this terrible start today, he's still been really good overall. And I think we have to give him some credit for that. But I mean, none of us want him pitching in the postseason. I think that's pretty clear. And today was kind of a reason why you don't want him pitching in the postseason, because when things don't go perfect for him, you're going to see some of these outings like this. But I mean, it's hard to really ask for more from the 5th starter in your rotation that you kind of signed just to eat some innings and help you get to the playoffs, because where would they be without him right now? Like, who would be their other starter in the rotation?
Yeah.
I'm not sure you'd get that same production from whoever they'd call up, and they'd probably be using more bullpen games, searching for starters on the trade market. Aside from like a possible top of the rotation guy, then you also have to maybe get an innings eater type pitcher. So it wasn't a great start, but overall Paxton has been pretty solid for this club.
Yeah, it's exactly how I feel about him, where I kind of always wanted to argue with the people that pointed at the 7-1 record and the 3.3 ERA and saying like, no, look how awesome this guy's been. And yet I also wasn't the guy that was just crapping all over James Paxton because, and I know you're going to hate this comparison, and I think James Paxton is a better player than Lance Lynn. I want to make that abundantly clear. But I think that like the thing that I kept saying last year was the one thing Lance Lynn was doing was he took the ball every 5th day and he gave them 5 or 6 innings, which in the course of 162 games and trying to save your bullpen and all of those types of things, like you need people that at the very least are just going to eat innings. And James Paxton's expected ERA is about 4.5. And I would still say if you could get 5 to 6 innings and a 4.5 ERA from James Paxton from here on out, I'd be fine with it. Like it won't look pretty day to day, but you just need guys to eat innings. You need guys to be reliable members of the rotation. And I think James Paxton has been that. And I agree with the first thing you said. Nobody wants James Paxton starting a postseason game. Like we don't even want him on the postseason roster, probably. And so a tough outing for James Paxton. Again, neither of us is saying he is this bad, and yet he might be closer to this bad than he is to the 3.0 ERA guy that felt like he was for most of the season. The second guy on this list, though, Blake, is Tyler Glasnow. And it could not be a different narrative for a guy who had a bad start with Glasnow than it is with Paxton. Glasnow had his second worst start of the season. Just 3 innings pitched, 7 hits, 5 earned, 2 walks, 1 strikeout. Here were the quotes afterwards. Quote, "My feel was completely lost today from warmups to the game. It was just one of those days where I had no command of anything. I knew right away it was just a rough day overall. I think today it was mechanical from pitch 1. It was just kind of, I think my release point is at one place and it's at another place. It was just kind of all over the place today." Roberts said this, quote, "Watching Tyler throw the baseball tonight, I felt discouraged. He just didn't have any command. He didn't have any feel. Very uncharacteristic of what he's done for us this year. For me, it's just kind of forgetting about it. And it was good to see everyone we called upon today in the pen to show up." Again, this is the game where the Dodgers come back down 4-2. They score 4. They strand the bases loaded in the 10th and then score 7 runs in the top of the 11th. Looking at those quotes, it was mechanical. That's the sentence to me, Blake, that is the most concerning. I'm not saying I'm worrying about this lingering, but mechanical feels worse to me than just, you know what, didn't have my stuff today.
I mean, kinda, I get it, but I think mechanics are something you can adjust, and the Dodgers do tend to fix pitchers pretty well and get them back on track. We can debate the hitter's side of that all we want, but they're good at developing pitchers, so I have a little more confidence they'll get back on track. It does seem kind of just like a throwaway game to me, like Dave Roberts is talking about. He's been the ace of the staff all year. He's going to continue being the ace of the staff. We know he has as much talent as anyone in Major League Baseball from the pitching side, probably. So
yeah,
I'm not too worried about it. Every pitcher is going to have a bad day. I mean, Kershaw's had bad games in his career, and it just happens. It's baseball. It's unfortunate it happened to the Giants, but you just kind of got to move on and turn the page and trust that you're going to keep getting consistent stats from Glasnow.
Yeah, real team player in James Paxton. He was the equivalent of a Friday news dump right after Glasnow gets lit up for 3 innings, 5 earned. You're like, man, that's bad. Paxton's like, don't worry, Tyler. I'll take all the shine off. 4 innings, 9 earned, baby. How about that? So shout out to James Paxton. Real veteran move, trying to protect the ace, kind of like an enforcer protecting, quarterback, protecting the goalie. something. So shout out there. The third guy on this list, though, Shohei Ohtani, just slumping, Blake. Only 3 home runs this week for Ohtani, 6 runs, 5 RBIs. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do with this guy. I think they might need to move him down in the order.
Yeah, I mean, that's why they're only paying him $2 million this year. You can't count on that production. So, but man, he's been on a tear recently. He's probably already clinched Player of the Month for June. I mean, it's the last day of June here, but he has that award wrapped up. He's probably going to win back-to-back Player of the Week awards here. He's just been on another level. I think that's what Dave Roberts said. He was like, if you take Ohtani out of the equation, you probably have Freddie Freeman as the Player of the Week for the last 2 or 3 weeks. But you add in Ohtani, who's just on a completely different level, and no one really compares to him. He's slugging like 1,000 something with the 500 on base and 400 average for the last 2 weeks. It's just been crazy to see. Like, we knew he has this ability, but to watch it, it's hard to put it into perspective because, like, we've never seen anything like this. I mean, maybe Manny Ramirez, that first year they got him, was comparable, and then Hanley, when they got him, he went on a run like that, and maybe even Puig a little, but Ohtani's just completely different, and we haven't even seen him pitch yet, which makes it even more crazy. So he just has so much talent, and it's hard to keep saying enough good things about him. I feel like we just keep using the same words over and over, like incredible, unbelievable, things we haven't seen before. Like, we need some new adjectives here.
Yeah, look, he had a streak of 8 consecutive games with a walk as well, in which he had 12 walks over that stretch. So it felt like a Barry Bonds type situation where he was walking 50% of his plate appearances and hitting home runs in the rest of them, basically. So an incredible week from Ohtani. Like you said, another Player of the Week honor due to him. Player of the Month. I mean, you might as well send him the plaque or whatever trophy or whatever certificate they get for that. It's got to be Shohei Ohtani. So that's the weekend review. Again, Dodgers win 4 out of 6. They sweep the White Sox, but then lose 2 out of 3 to the Giants this week. They get a day off tomorrow, then return home to play the Diamondbacks and the Brewers. Let's get into some other news items throughout this week, Blake. And this one, a positive one. We got a Max Muncy injury update. And for the first time in a few weeks, Blake, it was a good injury update. Swinging the bat, hitting soft toss and balls off of a tee. He's with the team in San Francisco for a few days. The next step would be live batting practice, a simulated game, and then a rehab assignment. But the fact that he's back with the team, increasing his activity, not coming back anytime soon. Okay, so don't get too excited. He's out until at least after the All-Star break. But to see him swinging the bat, and so far we haven't heard reports of soreness or complaints or being shut down or anything like that. So love to hear the positivity about Max Muncy, again, for the first time in what feels like a month.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully he can keep it going. We know how tough oblique injuries are and how challenging they are for hitters to get back. Like, we see it all the time. It keeps him out for a few months, and the Dodgers were optimistic at the beginning about him coming back in a week. And of course, we know that didn't happen, and we both said that wasn't going to happen. So I guess maybe we're a little better than the Dodger team doctors there. But yeah, I mean, they need to get Muncy back. It's been brutal at third base without him. Like, their production there has been probably the worst in baseball among any position, I would argue. Like, it's just been a black hole. So offensively and defensively, I should say, like, Muncy, he was the biggest question mark defensively coming into the year probably. And now he's like, we need him back because of that defense there at third base. Yeah. So it's just kind of funny to see how that played out. But yeah, it's good to hear that he's actually making progress, and hopefully he can keep that up.
In the 39 games since Muncy last played, Dodgers third basemen are slashing 153 batting average, 221 on base, and a 219 slugging percentage with a 27% strikeout rate. That's a combination of Kike Hernandez and Kevin Biggio between the two of them. You mentioned the hole at third base. The other news that came out sort of related to this was that there is a guy that the Dodgers have tabbed to play some third base. And it is not Kevin Biggio. Don't worry, Dodgers fans. However, it's also not Andre Lipsius or any number, or Miguel Vargas. It's a guy by the name of Chris Taylor, a guy our own Blake Williams 2 weeks ago hyped up as being back, has sort of since backtracked. But Chris Taylor is going to get some runway at third base, is the report from Dave Roberts. He had a home run today. I tweeted this out. Since June 14th, he's 9 for his last 20 with 2 homers, a double, a triple, and Blake, and he's only struck out twice in the last 2 weeks. I think that's the most unbelievable stat in that whole bunch. So give me your thoughts to Chris Taylor, who, by the way, looked pretty good defensively at third base today as well, I might add. Give me your thoughts on Chris Taylor getting some runway at third base, according to Dave Roberts.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's their best option for the position right now. Like Kike Hernandez and Kevin Biggio are not options there. They should both be off the roster.
They should be optioned, would you say?
Off the roster and not near this team anymore. But
Yeah.
I mean, Chris Taylor, it's encouraging because he made some swing adjustments that seem to have helped him out. And anytime there's positive stats backed up by an adjustment a player made, it's a little more encouraging than just randomly good weeks here and there. So I do like that side of it. I mean, Chris Taylor also has the historical production behind him. Like, we know what Kevin Biggio is. We know what Kike Hernandez is. Neither of them are good hitters throughout their career, but Chris Taylor actually has like a track record there. So I think that helps a bit with it. And then like he's been playing well. The defense plays up there, at least compared to the other guys.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they don't really have another option at this point. If we're going to complain about Kike's and Biggio's defense, we can't really say go put Lipsius or Vargas there because they can't play defense either. And that's the reason neither of them are either starting or on the club right now. So, I mean, I don't think they really have a better option than Chris Taylor at this moment. And hopefully he can kind of hold down the fort until Muncy comes back. And I mean, they just need some production there because it's been terrible so far.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned the swing adjustments. He was on with Kirsten Watson before the game today and basically said that back in New York, which was their last series at the end of May, they felt like they figured something out, he and the coaches in the batting cage, but it wasn't sort of a natural swing. It was something that felt awkward initially, which is why it maybe took a couple of weeks for that to settle in. And so he's just now getting more comfortable with kind of the adjustments that they've made. And I'm with you, and I saw some other people on social media saying the same thing. To say Chris Taylor's had a good 2 weeks is kind of like, that's such a small sample size. Who cares? And yet when for the first time you're getting reports that this uptick may have coincided and be lined up with something like a swing adjustment, something like some changes that he feels more comfortable with now, it gives you more hope, more optimism. Obviously, we're not going to put our life savings down on Chris Taylor being back because we've seen 2 weeks of good performance. But I'm with you that I have more optimism based on the reports that we've gotten, both from him, from the coaches, but also just kind of what we've been able to see on the field. You mentioned Kevin Biggio, another name that I mentioned earlier, Miguel Vargas. Biggio, we know the deal. He's hitting like 167 in 35 plate appearances coming into today with a 34% strikeout rate. Plus, he's not very good defensively. So I'm not entirely sure what Biggio offers there. Vargas, though, according to Dave Roberts, quote, not in the mix. He's taking grounders just to work on his hands and feet, but at this moment in time, he's focusing on playing left field against left-handed pitches. When you say Chris Taylor is their best option at third, is that based on the fact that Miguel Vargas is not an option at third base, according to Dave Roberts, or do you think that given the choice between those two, you would still take Chris Taylor?
I think it's more to do with the defense there. Like, Vargas is not a third baseman. I know he played it in the minor leagues, but he played a lot of positions in the minors because it was always kind of joked that he was a DH. Like, you just have to get him in the lineup and then hope the glove isn't awful. So, like, we can't really complain about the defense from Biggio and Kike and then say, go put Vargas there. I think Vargas is their left fielder of the future. That's their plan for him, in my opinion. And they've already moved him around the diamond so much. It's hard to say, like, okay, go do it again, especially when he's starting to find some success at the plate. And he actually has a somewhat consistent role as a starter versus left-handed pitching now. So I think you just kind of have to roll with that. Like, if it was a longer term thing and Muncy was out for the year, then maybe you talk about it. But right now, they just need to kind of tread water. I mean, they have a big lead in the division. They're getting Muncy back. The trade deadline's coming up. So you don't need to go do anything out of the box crazy to get through this time. You just need to wait till you get Muncy back, get Mookie back, maybe get Yamamoto back, and see what comes at the trade deadline. Like, there's no point to messing with the good thing that you have in Vargas in left field right now.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Speaking of the trade deadline, let's shift gears there. There are a couple trade rumors that have surfaced over the last week, or at least information about guys that the Dodgers have been linked to. Let's start with Garrett Crochet of the White Sox. He's believed to be the top starting pitcher who's available. And we have a report from Bob Nightingale, that the Dodgers have made an offer that was, quote, quickly rejected by the White Sox. Crochet, for those who are unfamiliar, 25-year-old in his first full year back from Tommy John. He is due for an innings limit. His 94 and a third innings heading into this season is more than half of his career innings pitched at the professional level, including the minor leagues. The White Sox reportedly tried to work out an extension, but got nowhere, quote, no optimism towards reaching an agreement. And so Crochet is reportedly available. He leads the league in strikeouts with 130. He has 2 elite pitches, a cutter and a fastball, both among the best in baseball. Strikeout rate, 12.5 per 9 is elite. The walk rate, also very good, less than 2 per 9 innings. He was an 11th overall pick back in 2020. He pitched in the majors that year, was a reliever in 2021, had Tommy John surgery in 2022. 15 teams have reportedly checked in on Garrett Crochet. What's your take on knowing that it's going to be a big package? This is a guy who's under team control, not only for this year, but I believe at least 2 more. Is it 2 more seasons or 3 more seasons after this? 2 more seasons through the end of 2026, I believe, right? Is this the type of player, knowing the cost is going to be as high as we assume? Is this the profile of a player that you think the Dodgers should be pursuing?
Yes and no. The player alone, I would love for the Dodgers to go get him. They have a lot of pitching prospects that they could move in a deal, and you're not going to be able to use all these prospects, so go get an elite piece that can help you now. I think Crochet is one of the best pitchers in baseball, and there might be even some more upside since he's only 25 and it's his first full year pitching as a starter. So the upside is just off the charts there, and the Dodgers have the talent to get it done. The thing is, against it, I don't think they need a starting pitcher if Yamamoto is going to come back, and they have bigger needs like in the infield or potentially the outfield. Like, they need to address the bottom of the lineup and figure out what they're doing with Lux and some of the other guys they have around that have been struggling there. But there might be few players available that can make an impact that Crochet can make for the team. And if you could run out a rotation in the playoffs of Glasnow, Crochet, Yamamoto, and then Bobby Miller or whoever else is pitching well at that moment, Gavin Stone, of course, totally blanked my mind there for a minute.
But, I was like, you're going to make some people angry in the chat, Blake.
Yeah, like Gavin Stone being your 3rd or 4th starter in the playoffs, like, that's a really tough rotation. I know a lot of people have concerns about the inning limits, but the Dodgers are a team that could manage that pretty well. Like, you can leave Knack in the rotation for the rest of the year and manage those innings, or if you have to, you could even make Crochet into like a super reliever like they did in 2020, have him go 2 or 3 innings every few often, and like just let him cook out there and be an elite reliever, make a strong pitching staff even better. Because I do think that's one of the ways you can kind of hide some of your weaknesses more if you keep building on your strengths to a point where like they're just going to be great for you and you can rely on them consistently every single time. So it is intriguing to add him. I think he would be a great pitcher to add to the team, but they do still have some bigger needs depending on the health of Yamamoto.
Yeah, the innings limit is the piece that scares me the most. Like if they're going to give up the cost that it's going to take to get Crochet, it worries me that they would be going after a guy who they're going to either have to shut down for portions of the second half, or, as exciting as sort of an elite relief weapon sounds, like I don't want to be giving up 4 of my top prospects for a guy who's going to be a reliever in 3 or 4 months. That's the part that scares me. And I think the fact that the White Sox are willing to trade him now kind of tells me that they're worried about all of the same things that we are, where they're kind of like, man, this guy already had Tommy John. He's only thrown 160 total career innings at minor leagues through major leagues since being drafted. We know that Tommy John surgeries are more reliable now than they used to be. And B, this guy came with the pedigree of being the 11th overall pick in 2020. But I think the innings limit plus the White Sox willingness to move him tells me that maybe they are a little bit worried about the injury stuff. And I know nobody likes to talk about next year, but a starting pitcher is less of a need 9 months from now than it is today, with guys that are going to be back healthy, presumably. And I know, you can never have too much starting pitching. My whole point is just to what you're saying. If I'm going to sell the farm, so to speak, to go get a guy, Crochet would not be the guy that I would want to go after, I guess is the short version for me. And it sounds like, to some degree, we may not agree on which player we want them to go after, but it sounds to me like if the Dodgers came to you and said, Blake, we have all these prospects, we're willing to trade them, we could go after a guy like Crochet, or we could go after a shortstop, or we could go after an elite outfielder, that you would probably go through door B rather than door A?
I think there's a good chance Crochet is the top player traded at the trade deadline. Yeah. And I think that's worth something for the Dodgers to consider. Like, Bichette might not be traded. Willie Adames isn't getting traded. So that leaves, what's your shortstop options left? It's pretty slim. You're looking at like Paul DeYoung or maybe some other names who might be out there who would probably be an upgrade somewhat over like Kike, but probably not playing better than Miguel Rojas and even Mookie there. So shortstop, I think you're really limited there. And then you're going to have a lot of teams interested in Luis Robert. So the Dodgers might not be willing to meet that price there. And he has a lot of the same concerns that Crochet has with the injuries and all that, and kind of inconsistent production there. So maybe they're not willing to pay that price. And then you're kind of left with, well, who's the best outfielder now? Is it Tommy Pham? Is it Mark Canha? So it's hard to say with the trade deadline still a month away, but I think it's going to be tough for a better player than Crochet to become available. So if you go out and have a trade deadline where you get like Crochet and a Mark Canha or a Tommy Pham or someone to help in the outfield, and then a competent backup infielder that can remove Biggio or Kike or whoever from the roster, I think that would be a pretty solid deadline to help you in the playoffs, especially with the concerns they have with some of their pitching. We don't know what Buehler is going to be when he comes back. We don't know what Kershaw is going to be when he comes back. We don't know if Yamamoto is going to come back. We don't know if Bobby Miller is going to get back on track. So there's a lot of question marks there. And maybe Crochet is the guy that you do absolutely need to go get because of those questions. So, I mean, I kind of want him just because he's the best player available. But at the same time, if you have your other pitchers coming back and healthy, then you could pass on him. So it really depends on the situation in closer to a month from now.
Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, in that same report, Nightingale reporting that Robert is not a guy that they're particularly interested in moving. So Crochet, they are motivated to move. Luis Robert Jr., not in that same category. Now, maybe they're playing a little bit of hardball, but that is the report from Bob Nightingale that we have, at least at this point. You mentioned Bo Bichette. He was the other guy that kind of some news came out around his trade availability this year. Nightingale in the same article said the Blue Jay, whose season is on the brink, plan to play starter Yusei Kikuchi, catcher Danny Jansen, reliever Yimi Garcia, DH Justin Turner, and outfielder Kevin Kiermaier on the trade block. Yet they still want to make one last run with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Bo Bichette. They should be staying until at least this winter, if not next summer. Bo Bichette was asked about whether he would be surprised if he was traded. His quote was, "Nope, not at all." When asked to clarify later, he said, quote, "It's the business of the game," and referring to the team's position in the standings, quote, "We are where we are." The general manager earlier in the season said it doesn't make any sense for us to deal the Guerrero or Bichette. When asked to clarify that quote this week, he said, "They're really good players that are part of the solution. All of our energy is focused on supporting them at this point. It's not just about this year. They're under team control next year. They've been important to the organization, and we hope that they continue to be." So the Blue Jays general manager saying these guys aren't going anywhere. Bo Bichette seemingly passive-aggressively saying he wants to be traded. It sounds like, what do you make of all of the quotes and the word salad thrown out about these two guys?
Kind of reminds me of Farhan saying D. Gordon is our second baseman the day before they traded him.
Love that.
I mean, it's all kind of GM speak. You're not going to openly say, like, this guy, we have to move him. He's available. Bichette understands, like, they're not a good team, and he could help rebuild them a bit with the trade. So, like, I mean, a GM isn't going to give away leverage in the media. It's just not how that's going to work. Every player is available for the right price, besides maybe Shohei Ohtani and maybe one or two other guys in baseball. So, like, he's available. I think that's pretty clear. It just depends on, are they going to get the price that's needed for them to trade him? Is what it's going to come down to there. They're not going to, like, completely hold him if some team blows them away with the trade package, but they're also not going to sell low on him since he's having a down year. So, not reading too much into the quotes, but I mean, it was always a question if he was going to get traded or not to begin with. So maybe there is a little something there, but I mean, he's available if the right price comes up.
If the Dodgers were called and they said, we want Dalton Rushing, we want River Ryan, and we want Jackson Ferris for Bo Bichette, what would you say to that?
No.
That's too much?
Yeah.
What about which is the deal breaker? Is Rushing and Ryan alone too much for you?
River Ryan's probably the one that's more of a deal breaker for me. I like Jackson Ferris, but I mean, the Dodgers are very good at developing pitchers, and River Ryan's just closer to the major league level, so I think that probably increases his value a bit to them since they are contenders right now. Dalton Rushing, I don't really care about trading too much. Like, I'm at the point where I kind of expect him to be traded for a big name player at some point soon. Like, Will Smith is locked up. They have some younger catchers in the minors that are also pretty highly touted. So Rushing, like, he's the number one guy on the trade block for me. It's mainly not wanting to give up River Ryan for Bichette when he's struggling this year, and they have Miguel Rojas playing well. Like, if you asked me this last year when Bichette was having a good year and Miguel Rojas wasn't, like, yeah, I'm all for that, but I think you can kind of hold off on that right now just because of the situation around Rojas playing well and Bichette not playing well.
Which of these three Dodgers pitchers would you be most willing to part with? River Ryan, Emmett Sheehan, and Landon Knack. This is why I get paid the big bucks, Blake, is to ask you questions like this. Because I know those three guys aren't equal players, but if you're talking about trying to compete for a championship this year, one of those three guys has a far greater likelihood of helping you.
Landon Knack is the guy you're trading in that situation, but he wouldn't bring as much back as Ryan or Sheehan would. So you're kind of in a tough spot there. And because he doesn't bring as much back, does it really make sense to trade him compared to one of the other guys?
Like, I mean, if they asked for Rushing, Ferris, and Landon Knack for Bichette, what would you say?
I'd probably lean yes, but it's still close.
Yeah. I mean, it's fun. I mean, look, we could go all day because I think Landon Knack is clearly the lowest ceiling of all three guys that I just mentioned. But he's also the guy that has the greatest likelihood of helping. Like, they might need him this year, not only in the regular season. There's not a 0% chance that Landon Knack could be starting game 4 of the postseason or something like that, based on the way that the schedule breaks and the way that the Dodgers rotation looks right now. I think Sheehan would be the guy I would be most open to moving just because of the injury stuff that's already happened. But again, we've seen him flash at the major league level, whereas River Ryan's made 2 starts at AAA. So this is why it's challenging to kind of jumble all these names together. But I think this is the type of package that it would take to go after a guy like Bichette.
Yeah, you can't ask me about Landon Knack when I've got his jersey hanging up behind me right here. Like,
fair enough.
My guy there. And then Sheehan, I think he's got a world of upside. Maybe I feel like if you're talking value and just everything, like considering where the roster is at right now, the value of the player, you probably move River Ryan in that scenario, but he might also have the highest upside. So it's just tough. I think he's also the oldest, or at least like in the middle. I'm pretty sure he's 2 years older than Emmett Sheehan and maybe 1 year younger than Knack.
Let's see. River Ryan is 25.
Yeah, I think Knack's 26 and Sheehan's 23, I believe.
Yeah, I don't know how
somewhere around there. So, like, you could justify trading a 25-year-old. Okay, you could justify trading a 25-year-old in AAA, especially if they don't see him as part of their plans this year, because then you're going into next year. He's 26, still hasn't made his major league debut. He's coming off an injury. He doesn't really have a long track record, but the Dodgers also seem really high on him. So it's tough. It's going to come down to like what the other organization values. And if they say like, we want Ferris and Knack or River Ryan and maybe like a sleeper type pitcher, I think River Ryan is the clear one to trade there instead of Knack and the other guys. So, I mean, it's tough. It always comes down to what the other team values too. So it's hard to say.
Fair enough. All right, we got a couple super chats, and I apologize we've taken a little while to get to these. We'll go in reverse order just because this one's relevant. 300 GJW says, if you're going to overpay, it's Crochet for me. I'm guessing here. Crochet would cost more than Bichette, right? Just because he's basically got almost double the amount of team control. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I don't think it's close. He's also pitching like an actual ace, and Bichette is not playing well. So
Yeah, because Bichette has the track record. You could make the case Bichette has proven it at the major league level for more than 3 months, which Crochet can't necessarily argue for. But again, when you've got one guy under team control through 2026 and the other through 2025, not to mention the value of starting pitchers in the mix there, So yeah, so where I've landed on all this is if I'm going to overpay, it's Bo Bichette. Like if I'm going to package my prospects, Bichette is the guy that I would go all in for because I like the track record, I like the position, etc. So that's my answer. But thank you for the super chat, 300 GJW. We got another super chat here from Cordenas saying, my thoughts, if Rojas continues to perform at shortstop, he will be starting there in the playoffs and Mookie Betts moves to second base. This person has read our minds, Blake, because this was next on our topic list. Dave Roberts was asked if he would consider leaving Miguel Rojas at shortstop when Mookie comes back. And he said, quote, I would. I don't think anyone can debate the level of shortstop play from Miguel Rojas. This is something that you've been arguing for and asking for an extended period of time. I think a lot of people were, maybe more so because it was more of an anti-Gavin Lux stance than it was a pro-Miguel Rojas stance, although Rojas's performance this year has made that a far more compelling case. So Cordenas, I think here is it a place that a lot of Dodger fans would agree with, wouldn't you say, Blake?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty clear. Lux has not performed this year, and Miguel Rojas has performed. And considering the defense of moving Mookie off shortstop and Miguel Rojas being an elite defender at short, like, it's just clear. Like, there's no justification for giving Lux starts in the playoffs unless he completely turns it around before then, which the longer it goes on, the less confident you get in that happening. I still have some concerns about Rojas holding up for the next few months and then going deep into the playoffs potentially and just playing on a daily basis. So I think that's something they'd still have to manage pretty well throughout the rest of the season. But yeah, there's literally no case for Lux starting over Rojas in the playoffs.
Yeah, and to be clear, this would be Miguel Rojas starting at shortstop and Mookie Betts starting at second base and Gavin Lux being moved out of the starting lineup. I will say Gavin Lux hitting 276 over the last 3 weeks, Blake. So I know we talked on this show, hey, if he could just hit 250, 260, now 276 the last 3 weeks, Blake.
And my follow-up to that in our text thread was, and his slugging is 270 also. Yeah. And you said, no, it was, 320 or something?
320, not a lot higher, not a lot higher.
So still not a great player there.
Yeah, I mean, look, the thing with Lux is, to me, it's not even the slug. It's the fact that he's not drawing any walks. I looked up his stats. In 2021 and 2022, he was in the top 25% in all of Major League Baseball as far as a walk rate. This year, he's in the 20th percentile. And so with Lux, I think we've kind of accepted that he's not going to be a 20 home run hitter. But if he could be a 260 hitter with a slugging percentage of like 350, but an on-base percentage that's in the like 350 to 375 range, I think that's where you get the value of a guy with an OPS over 700. The problem is he's not drawing walks, which is just a bizarre thing. So I'm with you. If Miguel Rojas continues to play that he plays, the way the level that he's playing, none of this matters because it's not like he's just been okay offensively. He's been actually fantastic. And so thank you for the super chat, Cordenas. And again, interesting quotes from Dave Roberts on that front as well this week. Let's do this. Let's take a pause real quick. And I want to give a shout out to our sponsor and our supporter, our friends over at So Rare MLB. Blake and I have been avid players. If you haven't heard yet, So Rare is an opportunity to collect digital player cards and then play fantasy baseball style competitions with them. They have competitions that run Monday through Thursday and Friday through Sunday every week. There is a free level to play. Everybody can play absolutely free. If you would like to buy cards that you can almost buy and sell like stocks, you can do that as well. I know Blake and I have both dipped our toes into those waters. Blake, how my biggest success story is Waldron on the Padres. He was one of my best purchases, although he struggled a little bit this week. But then I bought low on Austin Riley as well. So I'm feeling good about both of those purchases. How's your So Rare MLB team working out this week?
This week hasn't been great. Last week I finished 35th out of like 3,000 in one of them or something, and my reward was a gold Joe Jimenez card. So not the most exciting one there, but it's always fun to win a card that you can actually go and sell. Both the gold cards I won have been relievers now, so a little disappointed there, but I got a few other cards. I added Patrick Bailey, who's been kind of relevant this week, Nathaniel Lowe, who I was pretty high on last year, but I've struggled this year. So could be worse, but it was actually nice to place highly in a competition and win something there.
Yeah, absolutely. And shout out to our 3 people, by the way. We had 3 people win tickets to Major League Baseball games of their choice. All they had to do was enter for free at the link below. create a team, send us a screenshot, follow us on social media. And we had 3 people that won. So congrats to those 3 people. I think I saw Yap Player was one of the folks who won. I think they were in the video early this week. So congratulations to those folks. And thanks again to So Rare, both for supporting and sponsoring the show, as well as for giving awesome giveaways to our followers and viewers like that. Let's change gears here a little bit, Blake, and let's talk about minor league baseball. Anybody who's been following me on social media knows that I've spent this week in Reno. I've got family that lives in Reno, but also the Oklahoma City Baseball Club, the Dodgers AAA team, has been in town. So if you aren't already following the Dodger Blue YouTube page, most of you are watching this on our YouTube page. There are tons of interviews. I got 15 interviews over the course of the last few days, 13 players, the manager, as well as the play-by-play guy, just breaking down all sorts of prospects that are down there, guys who have been sent down, guys who are on their way up, and guys who are just trying to break through that ceiling for the very first time. And so we decided I would share 5 observations with you, Blake, about my time here watching AAA baseball for the week. And the first one is this. They've got the balls and strikes challenge system, and it is freaking awesome. I am all in on the challenge system. The way that this works is each team gets a certain amount. I think it's like 3 or 5 per game. And it's balls and strikes challenge. The pitcher can challenge, the catcher can challenge, or the hitter can challenge. I have been told that pitchers, it's like a faux pas for pitchers to challenge. The expectation is that the catcher is the guy that gets to decide whether or not to challenge. Although I did talk to one pitcher who was basically like, screw that. If it's a good pitch and the catcher doesn't challenge it, I'll challenge it and I'll take it. But what I love about it, Blake, is the pitch happens, the catcher challenges, then the umpire turns around and announces the previous ball has been challenged. And then a huge graphic pops up on the video screen, which is like a live animation of where the ball was in relation to the strike zone. And so the umpire is literally just standing there, and the whole stadium gets to learn with him in real time how bad of a call or how good of a call it was. And the one in particular was my guy, John Rooney. He was 3-1. He throws a pitch, gets called ball 4. This is the one that gets challenged. And I mean, this pitch could not be more middle, Blake. And the fact that the umpire called it a ball was amazing. So I don't know how much you've been hearing about the challenge system. This isn't full automated balls and strikes, but I loved it. That's been my experience this week. I've absolutely loved it.
Yeah, I mean, it's coming to Major League Baseball at some point. That's why it's being tested so much at the AAA level. So we're going to see that in the game soon. I wish it was more than the 5 challenges they give you or whatever, because umpires mess up more than that in a game, and especially if you use them throughout the game and then you need one late game or something. Like, I do think that still needs to be addressed. I'm still a fan of just pure robot umps, and I don't see any point of having the human element of the game when you're calling balls and strikes. If you can get rid of that, I don't see any reason to keep that. Like, I just can't see a benefit of keeping missed calls in the game when you have the talent or the ability to get rid of that. So it's a step in the right direction. I think they still need some more work on it, but I'm excited to see it come. And I think it'll be funny when umpires kind of get embarrassed about their missed calls that the whole stadium gets to see and know.
Yeah. And it's a hard job. So I feel for him that it's like, look, you're going to get a few of those wrong. It's just fortunate/unfortunate that that's it's going to be worn in front of everybody. The second thing, my observation, being a AAA manager is a brutal job. Travis Barbery is the name of the guy who manages Oklahoma City. And just to give you a sense of what his job looked like this week, on Tuesday, Clayton Kershaw was expected to start. That was scratched. I believe on Sunday was when we got word that Clayton Kershaw would not be pitching in Reno, which was a sad day for me. But Oklahoma City then has to completely adjust their entire pitching plan for the entire week. They were on a Tuesday through Sunday, 6 straight games in Reno. They head to Las Vegas tonight. And then they play Las Vegas this week, and I think it's like 12 straight games or something like that. But they don't get to just call up pitchers. Like when the Dodgers have a bullpen game, they can send 2 guys down and call 2 guys up. Oklahoma City does not have that benefit. Not only that, I learned this week in talking to Alex Friedman, who's their play-by-play guy, there were some rule changes this past year about the size of player lists that organizations can carry, and that number was shrunk pretty considerably. So he was saying that because of that, the Dodgers as an organization can't have as many guys on their entire roster of teams. So what that means for Oklahoma City is you're kind of stuck with the guys that you've got. Well, right now, Oklahoma City has 2 starting pitchers, Blake. They have Justin Robleski, who just made his 2nd start for AAA this week, and they have a guy named Christian Romero. I'm guessing nobody's here heard of Christian Romero. That's because he's a 21-year-old that should be pitching in high A that is pitching for Oklahoma City because they need somebody to wear it. They have River Ryan, but River Ryan made, as I think 3 1/3 was the most he has pitched at any start so far since coming back from injury. And then they had relievers starting the rest of their game. So if you're a member of the Oklahoma City bullpen, good luck. I'll throw one more wrench at you here, Blake. Sometimes Oklahoma City will get a phone call. I was surprised they didn't get this phone call yesterday, but it's from the Dodgers, and they say, hey, we might need Kyle Hurt and JP Fireisen tomorrow. And so they're not available today. So imagine if you're Oklahoma City and Kershaw gets scratched. So now you've got to figure out a starting pitcher and a way to get 9 innings in game 1 of a 6-game series. And not only that, you don't know which relievers are or aren't available. So my second observation, the next 3 will be much shorter, is holy crap, I would not want to be a AAA manager.
Yeah, I think you have to kind of manage that by like remembering it's a player development system and not like something where you're trying to win at the highest level. Of course, all the players want to win and the manager wants to win, but at the end of the day, you're really just trying to get players ready to go make an impact at the major league level. So it's tough to probably do that and keep those expectations in line of how you manage trying to win and trying to develop players. But yeah, I mean, that doesn't seem like a good situation. The good thing is for him, the Dodgers try and add a lot of versatility to their pitchers in the minor leagues. Like all their starters go through the relief process, and they have some relievers start sometimes just so they're ready for those roles. I think that was something you brought up, or Rob Hill brought up in the interview with you. You did. So if anyone hasn't seen that one, very informative interview, go watch that. But so maybe it's a good thing for the Dodgers to kind of mix those guys around and get them involved in different roles. And yeah, that's a tough thing to deal with, though.
Yeah, and I did, when the interview that I did with Travis Barbary posts, I basically asked them that, like, how do you measure success at a level where so much of, like, your hands feel tied in so many situations? They lost 5 out of 6 games, I believe, in Reno this week. But it's like, how much of that was their fault versus just the hand that they got dealt? So it was a weird one. So that was my second observation. My third observation, there is a lot of talent in the Dodgers AAA team. And it's a bizarre mix of talent because you've got guys. Jesse Hahn is a name that we've heard of. He's pitched at the major league level and been around. Chris Owings is another guy that's down there. Where these are guys that have played at the major league level. Then you've got River Ryan, Diego Cartaya, guys who are kind of trending up. And then you've got a bunch of guys like Andre Lipsius, Ryan Ward, who are kind of have Drew Avens, who have been performers at AAA. So my third observation is that there is a lot of talent down there. And it's hard to be a prospect in the Dodgers system. I asked a bunch of guys about this. It's like, hey, it's cool to be in a system that they all unanimously agree has the reputation as being the best player development organization in the league. The challenge is if you're Andre Lipsius or if you're Ryan Ward, or if you're Hunter Fiducia, you're in an organization that makes it almost impossible for you to get called up as well. And so just hearing guys process through that and how they approach that day to day has been really interesting. Even James Outman's a guy I got to talk to. And it's like, I know he struggled this year. Like most teams, he would probably continue to have a longer leash this season and be able to continue to struggle in hopes that he would work it out. But the Dodgers have a lot of talent, and yet because they have so much talent, it's hard for those guys to move vertically in the organization.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good thing and a bad thing. For the Dodgers, it's great. For the players, it can sometimes be a tough thing. But at the same time, like, you're also opening yourself up to trade possibilities and going and finding a team somewhere else because they become interested in you with how you're playing. And I'm sure most prospects would rather be developed by the Dodgers than they would by, say, the White Sox or the Tigers or one of those kind of bottom tier teams. So there's upsides and downsides to it, but it's good to hear that the players know they have a ton of like talent around them and that they can kind of build and learn from that.
2 names I want to throw at you. This is my fourth observation. One of the names will not surprise folks that have been paying attention to our YouTube page. I've mentioned him a bunch. Justin Robleski. He's a left-handed pitcher that has just been called up to AAA in the last few weeks. I believe he just made his second start at AAA. He retired like the last 9 or 10 guys that he faced, 85 pitches. He's a left-hander. He's a starter. He throws 100 miles an hour, and then he has 4 other pitches on top of it. He's absolutely ridiculous to watch live, and it's legit. And this is a guy that was not on anybody's top 100 prospect list, I don't think, at the beginning of the season, but he's a name to keep an eye on because I think he's going to pop on some of these lists at the midway point. The second name, probably not going to make any top 100 lists, but he's just a guy that watching the team play, he had a great week down there, but also just a great guy. And I could just see the path forward. And I love the story is Austin Gauthier. Austin Gauthier is like a Zach McKinstry clone in many ways. He plays all over the place. But the thing I love, this guy was undrafted out of Hofstra, signed with the Dodgers, came to them, and has basically hit. He had like a 500 on base percentage at one level. He continues to hit. I think he was like 6 for 9 or something in games this weekend prior to heading into today's game. But he's just a guy that I like. He could play all over the place. He made a great catch in left field. He's played some right field. He's played some second base. He's played some third base as well. And so Austin Gauthier is just another name that I would say, like, I don't think he's a future all-star necessarily, but I could absolutely see kind of in the post-Chris Taylor days, whenever that comes, Austin Gauthier being kind of the next incarnation of the play everywhere utility man.
Yeah, I'm not sure you comparing him to Zach McKinstry is going to inspire a lot of confidence.
I'm comparing him there to Zach McKinstry, to the people who remembered the hype around Zach McKinstry prior to, I believe he got injured and then traded. So McKinstry at one point was a guy that people were excited about. I'm going back to those days, but good point. Yes.
Yeah. How about like a prime Kike type player? I think
well, we both said that prime Kike was never very good.
I mean, he was okay for his backup role. Like, he had a few good years. And
I think Chris Taylor's the ceiling. I think Chris Taylor's the ceiling for Austin Gauthier.
Might be more than he has in him, but
yes.
I do think he's an intriguing player as a future like utility man who can just be a solid bench piece. I don't think we're ever going to see like peak years from him where he's an everyday player, but he should be able to make a role at the major league level. And then with Wrobleski, I mean, he kind of reminds me of an Emmett Sheehan type where he comes out of nowhere a bit and the numbers are good. The stuff is really good. So he could be an intriguing piece as well. I mean, maybe he's their answer to Garrett Crochet there. Probably not.
Yeah.
Likely not. But I mean, he has some intriguing upside. So it's fun to keep an eye on him. It's fun to hear that the reports were good on him.
Yeah, I think him and River Ryan, both guys that I got a chance to talk to and to see pitch, I think are two names that, you know, I think as Dodger fans, we hope we don't see them this year, because if we see either of those guys, it means a lot of things have gone wrong. And yet I don't think it's out of the question that one or both of those guys could see the major leagues at some point in some role, just because the stuff is so good. Kyle Hurt, another guy I got to talk to, Diego Cartaya, James Outman, JP Fireeisen. So tons of names. Ryan Ward led AAA in home runs in the first half. I know it's like a hitter's league and all of that, but like, he had more home runs than everybody else that was playing in the same hitters league. Andre Lipsius, that interview is up on our YouTube page. So Cody Hosey, Trey Sweeney will be coming in the next few days. I got to talk to everybody. I had 13 guys on my list. I hit all 13 of them. So it was an awesome trip. It was an awesome group of guys to meet, super friendly, super kind. And so I just encourage people to check those out, in part because it's just cool stories. I love asking guys like Wrobleski, for example. He got drafted out of high school, decided to go to college, ends up transferring twice and having Tommy John surgery. And I basically said, like, at what point did you regret not just going to the major leagues the first time? And he said, yeah, you know, I didn't know what to expect. Then the Dodgers draft him, probably because he had Tommy John surgery. I think they like that kind of thing. But just cool stories from cool guys all the way throughout. So go ahead and check those out. My fifth observation, Blake, and somebody asked if I tried any good food, and I wanted to get your take. I sent you a text message about this already. There's a place in Reno that came highly recommended. It was a taco shop. It's literally called The Taco Shop. The taco they are most known for is a cheeseburger taco. Like, I just I sent you a picture on title alone, on description alone. It's ground beef, it's American cheese, it's lettuce, it's tomatoes, and it's sauce. Like, are you interested or not interested in a cheeseburger taco?
I'd try it, but I don't think it would ever be like my first go-to thing. So sounds interesting.
It was the first thing on the menu. It comes recommended. It's literally like, they're like tacos, and it's like cheeseburger, carne asada, carnitas, el pastor. Like, I'm like, this is wild. Obviously I tried it, and it's just a bizarre experience. It tastes like a cheeseburger, and then you like bite into the tortilla and you're like, what is going on here? Very bizarre, very bizarre. But again, it's called The Taco Shop. It's in Reno, and cheeseburger tacos. As far as other good food, I know I'm going to get support from this. We do not have Raising Cane's where I'm at in Portland. So I hit Raising Cane's twice on the way home from games. I've made 2 In-N-Out trips. Again, something that is difficult for me to get to where I live in Oregon. So we did Raising Cane's twice. We did In-N-Out twice. So we ate well here. No complaints. Shout out to Raising Cane's. Packed at all times, Blake. Are all Raising Cane's locations just crowded at all times?
Pretty much.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Gotta love the order ahead. option though. Like you could just place the order online, just ready to pick it up. So good stuff there. All right, back to baseball. Let's do some odds and ends talk.
Wait,
and then we'll get to some questions. Oh yeah, go ahead.
TQT threw up a thing about our Gauthier talk. I just wanted to address it real quick. I was talking about Gauthier isn't going to be as good as Chris Taylor. Not that Chris Taylor wasn't a good comp based on Gauthier's talent. So just throwing that out there for you.
And I think to agree with Blake here, if you ask most prospect people, projecting Austin Gauthier to be a guy who has like multiple 120 weighted runs created plus seasons and signs a $60 million contract, I think is over projecting a little bit. So I think the absolute ceiling for a guy like Gauthier is Chris Taylor. I think, like I said, I think Zach McKinstry is probably a more fair comp, but I'm giving the favorable Zach, the pre-injury, career being derailed by injury, Zach McKinstry hype for Gauthier. Let's get some odds and ends. Joe Kelly injury update out until at least the All-Star break. According to Dave Roberts, will obviously need a rehab assignment before then. He's been out since the beginning of May with a shoulder injury. Just a bizarre. We haven't heard anything about Joe Kelly. Even this, it's like, oh yeah, he'll be out for a while. Like there's no real update here other than talk to me in a month, right?
Yeah, it's been weird. I mean, I feel like we can kind of expect this from the Dodgers at this point. Like you hear a player's going to be out for 2-3 weeks or something, and then it turns into 2-3 months. So we'll see if he does come back this year and if he can be effective. But it's a good thing their relievers have been really good so far this year.
Second one here, Blake. Does Dodgers bat boy Javier Herrera deserve a Porsche from Shohei Ohtani? Yes or no?
I mean, yeah. If Joe Kelly and his wife got the Porsche for a number, I think Herrera should get a Porsche for saving Ohtani from a potential IL stint. It just seems fair. Even if it's like
let's be honest,
ones,
and
Dave Roberts.
Who needs the Porsche more? Javier Herrera, the bat boy, or Joe Kelly, who's signing for millions of dollars? What was the most impressive thing from your perspective about that whole video?
I mean, catching the ball.
The hands are incredible. Like it was just like that ball getting hit. I mean, the line that it had to be coming on, and to just barehand it casually, like, and just unbelievable hands from Javier Herrera.
I mean, yeah, that's why he's out there. They have to just put him on personal protection duty for Shohei.
Yeah.
Make sure nothing hits him in the dugout. I mean, be great.
Yeah, Noah says Ohtani shouldn't be giving him a Porsche. The Dodgers should be giving him a Porsche for protecting their $700 million investment. Maybe they could split the cost, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I hope he can afford the insurance and all the taxes that would come with that gift. But yeah, if the Dodgers can cover that, all for it.
Yeah, it's like the person who gets gifted the brand new house and then has to sell it because they can't afford the like $70,000 tax bill that comes from getting gifted a $700,000 house or whatever. Last one here. Eric Gagne's throwing out the first pitch on Wednesday to honor the 20th anniversary of his 84th consecutive save. I stand by this take, Blake, as the most Homer Dodgers take I have. If I needed one out and my life depended on it and I could pick any pitcher from any period of time, steroids included, I'm taking Gagne. I've never seen a pitcher more dominant than Eric Gagne 20 years ago, and I will stand by it.
I mean, that's fair. I didn't get to see him pitch like years before my time, so I'll take your word on it, but I'm going with my guy Evan Phillips just because he's awesome.
Over Mariano Rivera?
Yep.
Oh, I like that.
That's
okay. I have the second most Homer take on the show, so there you go.
Got to support our guy, Evan Phillips.
Hey, love Evan Phillips. Gagne, I mean, somebody says God tier. His numbers are stupid. If you go back and look at what Eric Gagne did, yes, he was on steroids. Like, I'm aware of this. But the Eric Gagne versus Barry Bonds sort of matchups, like, you just couldn't. I can't explain adequately enough what must-see TV those moments were. I'm trying to go back and look. So in 2003, he appeared in 77 games with a 1.2 ERA. Are you ready for this, Blake? You want to hear what his FIP was that year? 0.86 FIP in 82 innings. He had 52 saves, obviously blew none of them. He struck out 12 and a half batters per 9 and walked 1.75 per 9. So basically, he was Garrett Crochet with a higher strikeouts per 9, a lower walks per 9, and as a closer. So obviously harder to do that as a starter. But Yeah, excuse me. No, in 2003, it was a 15 strikeouts per nine, 14.98 strikeouts per nine, and a 0.86. Have you ever seen a whip of 0.86, Blake?
Mason Miller might be around there, or at least he was. And I think Trinan might have got close that one year. He was really dominant with the Nationals, or was the A's back then.
Yeah, with the A's. Yeah, Mason Miller is currently at 1.79. Let's see what Trinan was. Trinan's a great call.
Trinan was 1.82 for his FIP, 0.78 ERA.
Yeah, that was in 80 innings. So there you go. That's pretty good. That's a pretty good comp right there. But I mean, again, a 1.82 is more than double Gagne's FIP for that year, just to put into perspective. And again, 84 consecutive saves. Remarkable stuff from Gagne. So shout out to him. I told Matt, he's like on my dream list of guys that I'd love to have on the show. I know he's connected to the Dodgers in some way, shape, or form. So maybe someday. By the way, random former Dodger walking around, hanging out with OKC this week, Brandon League. I think Matt said you guys may have saw him at spring training, but I don't know what his role is. He joked to me that it's a secret, but he's somehow connected to the Dodgers.
I did see him at spring training. Kind of related to that, I thought it was funny when I was covering Kershaw and Rancho. Their pitching coach is Ramon Troncoso.
Oh, wow.
For people who don't remember, he was a former reliever for the team and Kershaw's teammate. So I thought that was kind of funny that like Kershaw's making his rehab with his former teammate as his coach. And I'm pretty sure Troncoso's younger or right around the same age. So kind of funny.
Yeah. Ramon Troncoso trying to coach, trying to coach Clayton Kershaw. It's like, good luck with that. Troncoso's 41, so older than Kershaw. He does have that going for him, but, there you go. All right, folks, let's get to some questions. We are over the hour mark. We got time for a few of those. Thank you to everybody joining us live on Sunday night. We greatly appreciate over 1,300 people here with us. That is Blake Williams. I am Jeff Spiegel. Again, if you've got some questions, here we go. Here we go. David wants to know, Matt and the Paisan Witrado talked Friday night about having a total food talk show with you and Blake. You have to make this happen, Jeff. It is in the works. There was some text messages being exchanged between Matt and I. Look out for All-Star Week. We got a couple off days post All-Star game. We're going to talk about me, Blake, Anthony, and Matt finding a time to do a live food show only. So for the 6 of you that are interested in that, get ready. It's going to be some good content.
We're throwing in Scott too, just so he can tell us that everything's bad and he doesn't eat cheese. And yeah.
We'll just point to Scott and say, Scott, you like pizza, right? Everybody likes pizza. And then he tells everybody, no, he doesn't like cheese. So yeah, there we go. Larry, do you have any regrets for not trading for Juan Soto in 2022? I feel foolish now for wanting to hold on to potential trade candidates Dustin May and Gavin Lux. Your thoughts, Blake?
Yes and no. I mean, I think the Dodgers wouldn't have matched that package there, and I don't think the Nationals would have taken a package that the Dodgers could have offered with May and Lux over what they actually ended up getting. So, I mean, yes, you want to get Juan Soto on your team anyway, but the Nationals got a haul for him from the Padres, and I'm sure the Padres are definitely regretting that one.
Yeah. Look, if the trade was Dustin May and Gavin Lux for Juan Soto, then in hindsight, that looks very dumb. But I'm with you. If you go back and look at the rankings of all the guys that the Padres gave up, it would not have just been Dustin May and Gavin Lux. It probably would have included guys like Bobby Miller and, Will Smith or whoever else. So I think it would have been a hefty package. And obviously I love Juan Soto, but the Dodgers, I just resort to, on the whole, trades that the Dodgers have and have not made. They have been net positive, very net positive. River Ryan, we were just talking about. River Ryan came over for Matt Beatty, and they got the guy who's now the top pitching prospect. I was interviewing Kyle Hurt, and I was remembering Kyle Hurt came over in a trade for Dylan Floro with Alex Vesia as part of that trade. So, just think about the trades that the Dodgers have made, and it's good times. It's a laughable thing.
I will say about Juan Soto, though, I'm going to be pushing for him in the offseason. Dodgers need to make that one happen. I don't care how much they spent last year. I'd add Juan Soto to the mix.
I love it. I love it. Hey, you did it last year. You said spend all the money, and they did. So maybe you'll go 2 for 2. EB, if the Dodgers have another embarrassing exit from the playoffs, will Dave Roberts be replaced?
Yes, but I'm not confident about it. It depends how embarrassing. If they get swept in the first round, I think he's gone. If they lose in the NLCS, I think he stays. In 5 games in the NLDS, that's kind of a toss-up for me. But I think his job security is pretty safe compared to most managers overall.
Yeah, it depends how they lose. If it's the classic Dave Roberts that we've complained about, where it's failing to take guys out or putting the wrong guy in, then I think there's justification to be frustrated with him. But if it's because, Shohei Ohtani is 1 for 14 in the NLDS, it's hard to blame Dave Roberts for that, my estimation. Matty Man, if the Dodgers aren't very likely to win a World Series this year, what are the odds they don't bring Yamamoto back? So sort of the built-in implication here, Blake, is that Yamamoto is potentially able to come back in this scenario, but the Dodgers aren't the World Series favorites. Do you think they would consider just resting him until next year?
If they're in the playoffs and Yamamoto's healthy, he will pitch.
Yeah.
I don't think their odds of winning or whatever are going to go too much into that. We see the playoffs are random every year. Just send out your best team and you have a chance to win. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's might be better odds that he doesn't pitch if the Dodgers are ready or like in the playoffs, then that he doesn't pitch.
Yeah.
Or that he does pitch if the Dodgers. I'm saying this all backwards now.
Yeah. Let me say this. If the Dodgers aren't very likely to win a World Series, nobody is very likely to ever win a World Series. Like you said, if the Dodgers are in the playoffs and Yamamoto is available, he will be pitching. I think that's end of story. Because if the Dodgers are in the playoffs, they are going to be among the World Series favorites, and they are going to have a real chance of winning. It's kind of how I would answer that question. Ederico, what's the top priority at the trade deadline? Not necessarily a specific player. And what's your total win prediction now that we're halfway in the season? So give me a position. If you could pick one position for the Dodgers to go out and add somebody, what position would it be? Outfield, shortstop, or pitcher, starting pitcher?
I'm going to say center field.
Okay. Wow.
Because
you're buying into the Moreno propaganda about Andy Pages' defense, huh?
A little bit. Well, I mean, the eye test, he's not passing it. I know the outs above average looks okay, but he's not passing the eye test. And
rough day today. Rough day for our guy Pages.
This is one where I'm going to say the eye test matters a little more than the defensive numbers there. He has not looked great out there. He's been okay. He's been passable, but I think in the playoffs, you could definitely do better out there. I think infield is probably their biggest need overall, but I have confidence that Mookie will be fine at second and Rojas will be fine at shortstop and Muncy will come back and play third base. Like, if Bichette is out there and available, sure, go get him. But I'm not sure it's a huge need where you need to go overpay for everyone. But if Yamamoto does not pitch and there's no positive injury news on him, I think starting pitcher skyrockets to the top as the top of the rotation need.
Scott would be so proud of that answer, Blake. You said, I think it would be center fielder, but if this shortstop were available, and hey, if Yamamoto doesn't come back, give me a starting pitcher as well. So we just we touched all our bases.
I mean, if it changes so much and there's still a month before the trade deadline, like I think last month it was outfield was the clear need, and now infield is the clear need, and maybe it's starting pitching, and if someone else gets hurt from the rotation or if someone doesn't progress well, then starting pitching is the clear need. Like, there's still 4 weeks left until the trade deadline. There's a lot that can change, so you just got to kind of keep your options open.
Okay, give me a shortstop. It's my quick answer, Ederico. He said, what's your total win prediction now that we're halfway? Dodgers currently on pace for 99 wins. If I gave you 99.5 as the over or under, what are you taking?
I'll take the over.
Yeah, love that. Me too. I think they get to triple digits again. Let's get to one or two more questions. Eric asking a question we've seen a lot. Is Will Smith getting too many rest days lately?
Yes, but he's been working on his mechanics, and that's kind of the reason they've kept him out. At the same time, like, these games don't essentially matter for the Dodgers all that much. Like, they're going to be in the playoffs no matter what happens in the next month or so. Even if they lose like 20 of their next 30 games, they're going to be in the playoffs by the end of it. So it doesn't really matter. Just keep him fresh for the playoffs. Let him work on his mechanics and go from there. Like, that's the point of having Austin Barnes around, to take some of the pressure off Will Smith of playing every day.
Okay. Lahala Poppy, Blake, your number one fan, Lahala Poppy here, wants to know, rate the Dodgers, Phillies, and Braves all healthy 1 to 10. So when he says all healthy, guys expected back this season. So if all three of those teams are as healthy as they could be, give them a rating 1 through 10. He says he thinks the Dodgers are still the favorites.
Dodgers, I'm going with a 9.5.
Wow.
Phillies, I'm giving an 8. And the Braves, I'm giving a 7.5.
Yeah, Braves have taken the worst of it from an injury perspective. Dodgers have had a guys out, but again, Mookie and Yamamoto, in theory, projected to come back. So I'm with you in the order. I'm bad with numbers, but give me Dodgers, Phillies, Braves in that order. 3 more questions. Hawaiian Kira, is Ha-Sung Kim a possible shortstop candidate? Not as long as he would be coming from the Padres is my answer. Any issues with that, Blake?
No, I mean, I think I joked about him the last time I was on the show as an option I'd love to bring in, but it'll have to be as a free agent and not as a trade with the Padres.
Lakers Nation, do you think the Dodgers should bring back James Outman late in season or next season? We interviewed him. He had a great start to AAA. He struggled the last couple of weeks. You mentioned center field defense. They have a guy in the organization who has proven to be a very, very good defensive center fielder. Any chance Outman, you think, makes it back up at some point this year?
There's a chance, depending on injuries, but I kind of feel like Friedman would go get his guy Kevin Kiermaier before bringing Outman back up if you're going on an everyday basis. I mean, is it the right thing, the smart thing? Maybe, maybe not, but Kiermaier is a guy Friedman has wanted forever and has loved going back to his time in Tampa, so he's on the trade block, and I'll say that's a sneaky option to look out for at the trade deadline.
There you go. He was in the list of guys on the Toronto trade block, so there you go. Cardenas, when Betts takes over second, what do the Dodgers do with Lux? Do they trade him or something else?
Can I be very blunt here?
Go for it.
Who cares?
Yeah.
Okay. Move him on, trade him, put him on the bench, send him to AAA, like whatever. We don't have to worry about that problem anymore. I mean, yeah, I get why we all want to know. I think he'd be traded for giving a serious answer, but yeah, I mean, just be happy Mookie's at short or second and Rojas is at short.
Yeah. If they could trade him, I think they would, especially if he's not playing every day. Obviously, positional versatility. He doesn't have the ability to go play all these different positions. They've sort of tried him, but I'm sure there's a team out there that values him to some degree. It won't be nearly at what it used to be, but if they feel like Rojas at short and Mookie at second is the best option that they have moving forward, then so be it. I mean, let me ask you this. Do you think there's any chance that Mookie Betts would get moved out to the outfield? We just talked about the needs in the outfield. I don't think it's the craziest thing in the world where the Dodgers would come to the conclusion that right field was a bigger need than second base. Like, do you think that's a 0% chance scenario?
I'd say like 5%.
Okay.
I wouldn't say completely no, but they moved him to the infield for a reason, and they kind of need infielders at this point. Like, we're talking about Kike Hernandez, Kevin Bichette, Chris Taylor, and Gavin Lux getting everyday at bats just because they're infielders. So you probably kind of need Mookie in the infield also.
Fair enough. All right, everybody. We appreciate you joining us again. This has been Dodger Heads presented by DodgerBlue.com. If you haven't already, subscribe, ring the notification bell here. I mentioned it a few times. Tons of player interviews from OKC coming. If you missed the James Outman, Diego Cartaya, Kyle Hurt, Justin Robleski, River Ryan, all those are already posted, as well as Cody Hosey, I believe, and there's one other person that I'm forgetting. But those have been posted. We've got 15 in total coming over the next few days. So make sure you subscribe, ring the notification bell. Please give those a watch. I think you'll enjoy the stories and the backdrops to these guys, just kind of their journey making it to AAA and kind of where their head is at in those. You can follow Blake Williams on social media at @ByBlakeWilliams. I am at Jeff Spiegel as well. Enjoy the rest of your night, folks. As always, go Dodgers.